seen some testimonies from of Mr. Jidayu Tajima, so we would like to pass these testimonies to the next generations. Thank you.
それでは、第2部を始めさせていただきます。平野信人副代表によるご挨拶をお願いいたします。
皆さん、本日は本当に雨の中、この正式除幕式が、無事に終えたことを大変嬉しく思います。
Thank you very much for your participation in such a rainy day.
この歴史的な事業は大変困難な状況もたくさんありました。それを乗り越えることができたのは、ここにお集まりの皆さんの知恵と努力の賜物であります。
We have come to this day, but we have had so many hardships to achieve this project. But we have come to this day by overcoming these hardships with everyone's wisdom and effort.
今日を迎えることができたのを本当に嬉しいとともに誇らしい気持ちになります。
I am really delighted and proud of our project endeavor.
私たちはこの日に刻まれた平和、友情、自由の精神を永遠に忘れることはないと思います。
We will never forget the spirit of peace, friendship, and freedom engraved in this monument.
本日はご参列いただきまして本当にありがとうございます。この歴史的な一日を皆さんと共に過ごしていきたいと思います。
So thank you very much for your participation, and let us enjoy this invaluable day with all the participants here.
My name is Annette Speijers. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a granddaughter of POW Dick Hein. He died here in Camp Fukuoka 14B in March 1945, just before the bomb. He was 32 years old. His daughter, my mother, was 7 years old at the time. She was kept in a Japanese camp in Indonesia, Java, with her sister and mother. It was a terrible time, of course, but they survived. Now I'm here in Japan to remember my grandfather with deep respect, and on behalf of my mother, who is still alive. She's 86. Sends her greetings. But she would have liked to be here, but that was not possible. And I'm here also of his 5 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren, who never knew him, of course, and never get to know them. I'm also here in the spirit of reconciliation, to learn from our shared past, and I hope to move forward in understanding and friendship. I thank you all very much for this opportunity.
Good morning. May I introduce myself? My name is Ron Meijer. I am a stepson of former POW Mr. Alex Meijer. He survived the atomic bomb and the war. He returned to Indonesia, and a few later he married my mother. But before their marriage, during the Japanese occupation in Indonesia, my mother had a love affair with a Japanese Navy man. In this relationship, I was born. My position is therefore really complicated. And I was struggling a lot for my own identity. In 1998, my stepfather and I came together to Nagasaki as a part of the peace exchange program between Japan and the Netherlands. This journey became a valuable process for the both of us, for healing and conciliation. So therefore, I am today here to honor my stepfather, who did the best for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. My name is Rob Schouten. I'm the chairman of the foundation Monument Nagasaki. My father was a former POW, Mr. Everhard Schouten. He survived the atomic bomb. In many years of his life, he suffered a lot from the war traumas and died in November 2012. He was 90 years old. In 2015, my wife Lies and myself participated in the 70th atomic bomb commemoration in Nagasaki. In the same year, we became the initiators of this monument project, and we stand there at the monument to my father. Thank you very much.
I would like to introduce some members who have made this joint project come true. First is the Netherlands Committee and Kizuna Committee.
オランダ大使館防衛部官ディック・アルッセマさん。イギリス大使館防衛部官コリン・ウィリアムス様。オーストラリア大使館上級防衛代表ソーニャ・ハロランさん。アメリカ大使館陸軍防衛部官ジム・チェネイさん。
世界恒久平和への道のりはまだ依然として厳しい状況です。しかしこのような状況だからこそ市民一人一人が改めて平和について考え、戦争をしてはいけないと声を上げることが大切です。被爆地長崎に暮らす私たちは信頼を広め、他者を尊重し、話し合いで解決しようとする平和の文化を市民社会に根付かせるため、若い世代とも力を合わせてその活動に取り組んでいます。
Good morning. I'm absolutely humbled to be speaking on behalf of the defence attaches who are gathered here today on the very important unveiling of the new monument here at Nagasaki. I'm going to deliver my speech, a very, very brief speech in Japanese. For those of you who would like to see the English, I'm very happy to share that afterwards. 本日、オランダ、英国、米国の他の武官を代表し、短いスピーチをさせていただき光栄です。この3年間、世界中がコロナパンデミックの影響を受けました。太平洋戦争はそれよりもさらに長く、ウイルスと同じく差別なく襲いかかりました。今日新しくできた記念碑で第14文書に言った捕虜のことだけを思い出すのではありません。少なくとも8の国に軍人と民間人の両方の何数人も捕虜が福岡の管轄内だけでも少なくとも27の収容所にいたことを思い起こします。彼らの到着前の生き残りくじ引きという逸話は聞くのがつらいです。収容中の過酷な環境だけではありません。史上最大の原爆が爆発したとき、長崎の数百人の捕虜は爆心地に近いところにいました。第14文章に言った少なくとも7人の捕虜が原爆で亡くなったことも分かっています。ウイルスと同じく戦争の結果には差別がないことを痛感します。 今、私たちは今日の新しくできた記念碑を平和、友情、自由に捧げられます。本日、各国の代表を出席し、今日の記念碑を上幕することは、より良い世界のために、未来の世代に向けて私たちの総力を結集するということです。ありがとうございました。
Dear very honored guest, thank you very much that you are coming here together with us to have this very memorial day. It's very emotional for us who have been making a lot of efforts to make it real. And next to me stands Gregor. He is he has also had a lot of work to make to gather enough money to build the building, a monument. And he is going to say something about our memory and his own feeling, and that I cannot translate in Japanese because I will become very emotional. So I will give the words to him, and please translate his words to them.
ありがとうございます。今日非常に私心に込み上げるものがいろいろありますので、グレゴリーさんにですねここまでいろいろと碑を建立するにあたってもお金集めも含めて非常に大変なことがありましたので、その点をですねグレゴリーさんにお話しいただきたいと思います。So please go.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor for me to stand here for you here in Nagasaki. This project took a lot of years and a lot of hardship. And it really warms my heart to see you all sitting here and that we have arranged this in this very beautiful town. Yesterday I stood on the ridge on the other side and we went up with the cable car. And for me it was the moment that I tried to realize what Nagasaki looked like prior to the bomb. It must have been a very, very special, a very, very beautiful city with small houses, wooden houses. And I was looking for the spots that I remember from the book that I wrote about my very good friend Dick Buffel van Steenberg. This is in English. And he was you can maybe hold it up next to me. He was a very, very special man. He lived in Bandung, and I will take this moment to talk about him because he died in 2019, and he shared all his experience in the last 2 years of his life to me. He had never spoken about it. So that was very special, and for me it's very special to stand here and to say a little bit something about this man, about his character, his determination, his sense of humor and the will to live. Dick lived in Bandung in Indonesia, what's now Indonesia, the Netherlands, Indian country that was a colony of the Netherlands. And he was asked to present himself because the Japanese had invaded the Dutch Indies, and he said, well, I'm not going to do this, why should I do it? And his mother convinced him to do it, so he went and presented himself, and then the ordeal for him started. He was taken prisoner, sent to another camp in Bandung, then went to Batavia, from Batavia to Yogyakarta, and there they put him in a ship, the Hell ships, with your father as well, and the Hell ship took him to Singapore, where lots of other people joined in another ship, the Hawaii Maru, which went to Moji in the north of Japan, and then what we saw in this absolutely beautiful movie, he was taken to Nagasaki. In Nagasaki he worked in the shipyard, and he told me everything how it was to walk every morning from the camp to the shipyard and in the evening back, and the little food they had. And he had one thing in his mind, that 1945, what he was going to focus on, and this was 1943. In 1945, he was convinced that he would be free again. and that the only thing he had to do is to live on every single day for the next day. And I had a lot of dinners with him, and I said, Dick, you eat so little. He ate very, very small parts, and I had 10 times as much as he did. And he said, for me, food is not important. And I said, can you remember something about the food in the camp? And he said, there was one day that I found a piece of chicken liver in the sand that someone had dropped. And I put it in my mouth, and I kept it there for hours, and it was the best meal I had in my life. For me, it really touched my heart to see this little man talking about it. Now, what he did in the shipyards was, he had one task, which was when a big plate was lifted and the holes were drilled, that he had to put a bolt through it, and someone else, his mate on the other side, was going to put the bolt on the other side. And so they crawled until the ship was finished. He built 3 ships, 3 oil tankers. And when I was standing here yesterday, I was picturing the shipyard, and I was also picturing the Musashi that was built at the other side of the harbor by Mitsubishi Shipyard, which was the largest battle cruiser that was ever built in this absolutely beautiful country. It was unfortunately, of course, lost in the war in the Philippines, but I was just picturing that. The atomic bomb, I just want to stand still for a moment at the atomic bomb. Dick was, and maybe if that's all right with the time, I can read you from my book, The Experience. A little too long? Okay, then I'll do it. It's a very short thing. But anyway, he saw in an aircraft crossing over and a little twinkle of light. And instinctively he ran into the foundry where he was working and was looking for a place to hide because he knew something terrible was going to happen. Hours later he found himself under debris in the foundry and walked outside and saw something that he would never believe, but because the city was gone. He said, Gregor, it was unbelievable. You couldn't look and see the mountains, and now I could see everything. Everything was flattened, everything was gone. And of course, there was a lot of pain and hardship in the town, and he worked for a few days, as we heard from this other man in the film. This is a special moment for me as well. The book is finished, the story is there. I salute Dick from here. Thank you. Interest. It was a beautiful man.
Good morning, everyone. Best, we say in Holland. So thank you very much, but also thank you very much for giving me a promotion earlier, to promoting me to ambassador. I'm very grateful for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here, very grateful I can stand here in front of you, and I would like to convey the gratitude of my ambassador, of the embassy and of our government, that I'm able to speak here on behalf of my government at this important occasion.
最後のスピーチということで多少緊張しておりますけれども、本日ですね、オランダ政府を代表しましてこのようなご挨拶の機会をいただきましたことを感謝申し上げます。
So today we've come together to pay tribute to the hundreds of Allied prisoners of war that were held captive here in Nagasaki at the Fukuoka Prison of War Camp 14B.
本日ですね、福岡捕虜収容所第14分所に囚われておりました、約数百名のですね、捕虜のためにこちらに皆さん集まりのことと思います。
Most of them at this camp were Dutch, and the others being Americans, Australian, and British prisoners of war. And I'm very happy to see here the colleagues of the other embassies as well.
囚人のですね、大部分はオランダ人だったんですけれども、他にオーストラリア、イギリス、アメリカの捕虜もいましたので、その代表の方々がですね、今日本日この場所に集まっていることを嬉しく思います。
So many of these prisoners of war lost their lives here at the camp, and most of them due to the harsh living conditions and hard labor that they had to go through, but also 8 or 9 of them also perished because of the atomic bomb.
その戦勝の捕虜たちはですね、収容所の中で非常に苦しい生活を送っていたんですけれども、そのうち8人の方が原爆によって亡くなったというふうに言われています。
That this number is actually not so high, not as high as I would have expected, has to do with the work that they were doing. And many of them were digging underground trenches. But today we commemorate all of them.
この8人という数字は一見したところあまり多くないように思えるかもしれませんけれども、塹壕の中に入っていってたまたま生き残った方々もいるということで、我々のこの集まりというのはその全ての戦争の捕虜たちに捧げる集まりだというふうに思っております。
We do not actually know the exact number of the people that lost their lives here, but it's clear that it was in the hundreds. But then again, numbers can somehow be numbing, masking the human tragedy that hides behind them. Numbers do not do justice to the pain and suffering experienced by each and every individual.
この福岡不慮収容所のこちらの収容所でですね、亡くなった人数というのが数百人であろうということで、その数ははっきりしないんですけれども、しかし数を出すということはですね、その背後にある一人一人の死や苦しみというものを消すということにもつながりますので、そちらにですね、私たち目を向けていくべきなんではないかというふうに思います。
That's why the stories of every individual really matters. And I think we've heard some really moving stories today about some of those individuals.
今日はですね、たくさんのこの個人の方々がですね、来られているので、そういった、心を揺り動かすようなストーリーというのを聞けたんではないかと思います。
But allow me to share one more story, and that is the story about the father of Rob, Everhard Schouten.
ここでですね、もう一人のストーリーをご紹介したいと思います。
And I was really moved when I read the story on the website of the Foundation Monument Nagasaki, and I hope that Rob doesn't mind that I share a bit of that story.
こちらのこの長崎のですね、平野建立の委員会のウェブサイトに載っていたストーリーです。
So Everhard Schouten, the father of Rob, was 19 years old when he joined the army in Indonesia.
インドネシアのですね、軍に入った時はまだ19歳でした、その方は。
Soon afterwards, he was sent to Bandung, where he had to defend the city against a possible Japanese invasion.
彼はですね、軍に入ってからすぐバンドンに送られました。日本軍の侵攻に備えるためです。
So in 1943, when he was only 21, he was captured by the Japanese army and sent with hundreds of others to Japan on one of the so-called hell ships, the one that we heard about before. In this case, it was the Hawaii Maru.
1943年ですね、まだその人物は21歳の時ですけれども、日本軍によって捕まりまして、ハワイ丸というふうに呼ばれている船ですね、彼ら地獄船というふうにそれを呼んでいましたけれども、それで囚われて運ばれるということがありました。
So many did not survive these ships, as the starvation, disease, and heat and military attacks took their toll. But Everhard did survive.
その船に乗っているということはですね、その船内で食料がなかったり、病気が蔓延したり、あるいはその船自体が攻撃をされたりということがあって、生き残った人たちは決して多くはありませんでした。
And like others, he eventually arrived here in Nagasaki, where he was put to work at a shipyard. The circumstances were degrading, the work was hard, and the treatment was brutal sometimes. And in 1945, when the bomb fell on Nagasaki, Everhard was working in a trench, and that saved him.
長崎ではですね、長崎の造船所で非常に厳しい労働環境の下で働かされていました。原爆が投下された時は、その兵士はですね、たまたま塹壕に入っていたということで、命を拾うことができました。
And on the website of the foundation, you can read that he remembered a flash of light. He lost consciousness because of the shock, and when he came to his senses again, the world around him was on fire.
その光が光った瞬間ですね、彼は、意識を失ってしまったんですけども、しばらく後に目を覚ました時にはですね、周りが火の海であったことに気づきました。
The sky had colored dark red, and the earth had turned into ash. And as far as he could see, there were thousands of corpses and casualties.
空はですね、真っ赤に燃え上がっており、自分の周りには数千の死体が転がっていたという状況でした。
But luckily, he had survived yet again. And sometime afterwards, he was repatriated by the American army and reunited with his family in Indonesia.
彼は非常に幸運だったんですけれども、その後ですね、日本が戦争に負けて米軍によって助けられてインドネシアに戻ることができました。
So he had survived several threats to his life. He had lived through the hell ships, the camp, and the bomb. But of course, these experiences did not leave him unscarred, as we heard from Rob today. Later in his life, the memories came back to haunt him in his dreams sometimes. Yet, in spite of all of this, he lived to reach a respectable age of 90 years.
しかしですね、彼の苦しみというのは、彼は非常にですね、もともと戦争の捕虜になり、日本で原爆に遭いといういくつかの苦しみを経てきたわけですけれども、それが戦後終わることはなくですね、やはり記憶が戻ってくる、その時の記憶が戻ってくるというふうなことがありました。
In 2015, after he passed away, he was named Hibakusha in recognition that also he was a victim of the nuclear bomb.
2015年ですね、彼がもうすでに亡くなったのなんですけれども、彼は被爆者として認められました。
This is the story of Eva Schouten. And I'm sure that in each of those more than 500 cases, 500 men, more than 500 men who spent their time here, each of them will have their own story.
数百人の方がですね、この長崎において犠牲になりましたけれども、それぞれの方々にそれぞれのストーリーがあります。
So thank you to the monument that we unveiled today. They will be remembered. And let me offer my deepest condolences and my respect to the memory of all those who perished here.
ここで亡くなった人々、犠牲になった方々のことを思い残すという意味でも、今回このような日の除幕が行われたことは非常に意義深いことだというふうに考えております。
More than 77 years have passed since the end of the war, and thankfully, since then, our countries have reconciled, and since then also, our nations have made peace and freedom prevails and friendships are built.
幸いですね、あの時から77年経ちますけれども、平和や自由、フレンドシップ、友情のですね、精神というのが非常に広がってきております。
So these three things, peace, freedom and friendships, are exactly the three things that the monument stands for.
この平和、それから友情、自由というですね、この価値を守っていくことが重要だと思います。
Yet as we can unfortunately see again in our time, these three things are not to be taken for granted. Who would have thought that in May 2021, only 2 years ago, when this monument was completed, that we would have another war again in Europe?
しかしですね、この3つの価値というのが当然のものとして我々のもとにあるわけではありません。この日がですね、除幕した後、ヨーロッパでまた別の戦争がですね、起こるというふうに想像した方が一体どれだけあるでしょうか。
And who would have thought that we would be confronted yet again with the threat of the use of nuclear weapons? It shows that peace is not a given. It shows that peace is something that needs to be recreated every time again by every generation.
この状況を見るとですね、核兵器を使うという脅威、脅しもですね、なされている、そのような状況を見るとですね、平和というのはあらかじめ与えられたものではなくて、自分たちが常に想像を繰り返していかなければいけないものだというふうに考えます。
So we should not forget the horrors of the past if we want to avoid them in the future. And this also is one of the messages of this monument.
その今後ですね、悲劇を繰り返さないためにかつて起こった悲劇というものをきちんと頭の中に刻んでおくことが必要です。
So finally, allow me to say a few words of thanks. First of all, to the people who took the initiative to erect this monument. Rob and Lies, thank you for your vision and for your leadership.
この日をですね、建立に尽力された方々に対してですね、そのリーダーシップに感謝を申し上げたいと思います。
However, realizing this dream would have not been possible without the help of so many people. The Foundation Monument Nagasaki, the Kizuna Committee, and the Committee Nagasaki Japan.
オランダの日の建立委員会、それからキズナ委員会、長崎の委員会、それぞれの方々のご尽力があったと思います。
And also thank you for the generous contributions, including the Hendrik Muller Foundation, the V Fund, and the Dutch Ministry of Defense, and everyone who contributed through more anonymous ways through the crowdfunding.
またですね、さまざまな財団からのこの日を建立するための支援もありましたし、またオランダ政府にも感謝を申し上げたいと思います。
So for Forgive me that I do not mention everyone by name in particular, because I'm afraid I might forget someone and I do not want to hurt anyone here. But thank you to all of you for your wonderful contribution.
本当はですね、一人一人名前を挙げて感謝申し上げたいんですが、誰か忘れていると困りますので、皆様、ここにいらっしゃる皆様方に感謝を申し上げたいと思います。
So may this monument inspire us to keep on working for peace. Thank you very much.
この日によって平和への願いが続きますけれども、ありがとうございました。
以上で、記念式典、除幕式、と式典を終わらせていただきます。どうも今日は雨の中、関係者の皆さん、そしてご来場の皆さん、ありがとうございました。
So this is the end of the second part of today's program. Thank you very much for your participation.